Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crystal Core Radio Podcast. Brian is back as your first co-host here, joining me with Chris and Chrono today. Chris ran the show all last week. It was an excellent listen to, spoiler-free, continual discussion about Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. I really appreciated Elio and you guys and Chili's perspective on the state of Dawntrail. It was a great podcast. If you guys haven't listened to that and you're still in your avoidance of Final Fantasy XIV content due to fear of spoilers, we get it, but it's I think it's a really good episode if you guys want to go check that out. Also,
it's probably coming to a close, by the way. Just knowing the internet, that window is probably at its end. It's going to get hard to cover gaming news as we look into point one and beyond without acknowledging
that there's story that it's happening.
Who could be an extreme and who is doing what and what's going on, and right.
Yeah, exactly. But also, if you guys are listening to the MP3 audio, thank you so much for being out there. We just recently crossed over 60,000 downloads of the podcast. So thank you guys so much for the support. Go ahead, Chrono.
I was saying, hype.
Oh,
congrats, dude.
I thought you were like, all right, now we got to get into the stuff.
No. That's awesome, dude.
The voice you're hearing right there, if you're listening to the audio only, is Chrono. Chrono, what are you playing, man? What's going on with you this week?
So I've been playing a lot of Wii U. Been enjoying some Twilight Princess HD. I was really hoping that Nintendo would finally just put it on Switch, but since they won't get off the pot, I will finally play the games I bought back in the 2010s. But I spent a lot of time soft modding it, and that was a fun experience. And now I'm using a Switch Pro controller on the Wii U, which feels illegal, but it's super awesome because it's way better than using the gamepad.
Yeah. Now, I think you're just now confirming one of the big problems within gaming industry right now is that the majority of us are all just playing our back catalog of older games. So you are contributing to the crisis that is going on within gaming today.
Yeah, because if I'm not playing that, I'm playing Fortnite, and we all know how old that is. So it's like, what the heck?
Chris and I play Final Fantasy XIV. Like that is a game.
I got mocked the other night because I left a game up, and so on all these little social platforms, they say which game you're playing. So like whether or not you're home, like it just implies that you're playing this game 24/7 as long as the launcher's open. And a friend of mine texted and said, "Would you like to play Age of Empires?" And I was like, no, I'm not even home. And he's like, oh, because it says you're playing Minecraft. Isn't that game like dead? Isn't that like an old game? And I was like, not as old as the one you want to play. Like that's even older. Like this is a weird criticism in this moment.
Chili has joined in the show. What's up, dude? What are you playing, man? What's going on with you?
I'll be honest, I've been playing a lot of Fantasy 14. That's been my game right now, to be honest. In fact, I traveled all the way to Leeds yesterday so I could get the mount. That was a story. I went there like, it was like, I mean, it's hot. Okay, for me, this is hot because I live in England. Mm-hmm. The Americans are going to laugh, but like, it's like 80 yesterday. And like, that's... Everyone in America is just laughing. But for us, they're not used to that heat. Like, we went from freezing cold rain to 80 to freezing cold rain. So the idea of going, it was like, it's like 85% humidity as well. So anyway, I got there like, it was like 6-hour trip, 3 hours there, 3 hours back, just to get a mount. Which, by the way, they had no ice. So they were like, if you wait 10 minutes, we'll get you, we're getting a delivery of ice for the teas. And 50 minutes later, still hadn't arrived.
Dang.
So,
well, Chad agrees with you. Nevi in chat says that 80 is, or it can be hot.
It can be, but that sounds like picnic weather here in the South here.
Put some shorts on.
Right?
You get a nice breeze.
If 80's hot, it's either still and humid or you have worn too many clothes. Drop to shorts. And then
as I said, it was like 85% humidity. Like it was in the city, so there was no wind. So
yeah, that's what gets you. Like, and the same thing when it's too cold outside. It's like, it's 10 degrees, and it's like as long as the wind doesn't move, it's like, all right, that's fine. Like it's just brisk, as opposed to like if that wind moves any little bit, you're like, this is just the absolute worst. Chris, what are you playing, man? What's going on with you, dude?
This week I was playing some Minecraft still. So that was what I got some shade for. And then we dug out the Switch games. So my wife was like, "Where's the Switch stuff?" So we've been sitting around, just kind of enjoying the ability to like not be in our offices.
Mm-hmm.
So just pulling out back catalog of Switch games. So that's it. It's been really chill. Trying to get away from our desks and stuff. Nothing too exciting. Nothing too exciting. I've been watching the world kind of burn in the news.
Yeah.
Stuff I don't enjoy talking about because there's like real ramifications and real consequences, which makes the other stuff that much more important to enjoy because you're like, Game Pass is the end of the world. Well, great. Let's talk about that because that's a lot less scary than the news article I was reading before this.
Man, yeah, I was listening to some stuff and I was like, you gotta balance it. Like as much as like it's fun to be in the know, it's like you gotta just turn it off. Same thing goes with social media. Like step outside, live in the moment, and don't try to let the things you can't control. Get out.
All I'm gonna say is I'm so happy that I didn't stay where I was for the mount because I got really lucky yesterday. If social media is correct, like where I went that night, I was lucky I was not there that night because I don't know why, but it was like I'm not going to meet. Yeah, it was.
We've all seen the post. It's things are burning, so it's like, oh my gosh. So hopefully everybody, wherever you're listening to this in the world, you're safe. And yeah, just as a kind of reminder, it is a healthy thing to kind of step into a video game from time to time or talk about, obviously, the video game news. Chris alluded to it. That's going to be kind of our first topic of the show. I also want to kind of give some thoughts, impressions about other MMOs and stuff that's going on, like with Throne of Liberty. And I would love to get these guys' thoughts on the No Man's Sky and the Light No Fire kind of news that has been going out this week. And then we're going to end the show as we usually do with 20 questions. So it's just been probably the most fun part of the show. It'd be kind of crazy to see how we could just do one day, like one podcast out of the whole year. We'll just make it a whole 20 questions and we just see how many games that can be got by the panel or something like that. But anyway, maybe we'll do that as who knows? We're coming up on episode 200. That could be kind of a fun milestone or something like that. Let's jump into the news as it relates to Microsoft Game Pass. The TLDR, for those of you who aren't in the know, Microsoft announced that they are increasing the price of Game Pass. They also announced they're introducing a standard tier, which does not include day and date, and only on console. So it's like they're like, hey, thanks for buying our console. You're gonna have to have the ultimate tier if you want day and date. Otherwise, it's this other thing. And I think that from a branding and marketing perspective is really, really confusing. Chris shared a link with us talking about how the FTC has attacked Microsoft for this news, because this is exactly what they warned about when they were fighting the merger with Activision Blizzard. What does the panel here think about all of the developments we've seen over the last couple of days?
It's a bad look. It's a bad look. Everything's going up in price, and that on its own seems to be the justification for going up in price. But the head of a iced tea brand here in the United States came out, and there was an interview. It's not new, but he was asked why they're not upping their prices, and he said because they don't have to. And so, like, I think the frustrating thing is, like, we're all aware costs are going up. We're all aware every time we go to the grocery store, every time we go to the gas pump, every time we have to pay insurance on something or whatever, that costs in general are rising, especially in the housing market. But none of us are seeing that on the paycheck end of things. And so it's just this general frustration that, like, all the economy metrics are good, but like the sentiment just doesn't align with that. So in theory, we have these regulatory bodies filled with unelected bureaucrats who are supposed to be experts within their field, who are supposed to do things that protect us and serve us through, regardless of who's in power and what their agenda is. We have groups that protect the quality of our water, and we have groups that, in this case, protect buyer protections. That's the FTC's job. Like, that's their job. And so I think they're rightfully upset here, like in this case, because from the outset, it kind of looks like Microsoft is screwing with us. Like, it kind of looks like, especially to affect consoles directly, it's like great. And the people most captive, the people with the least ability to look at an alternative, I mean, it's all but like, and your games might get interrupted from time to time for an ad. Like that's that's where we're at. This is like a streaming service ad roll level. And I don't know that like their profit margins, and then they're doing this at the same time that they're laying people off and they're shutting down servers that they're like bragging about how good they are. It's like, it's a lot of things in a row that make it look like somebody is applying pressure to a market from a position of strength, not responding to something that is like an existential threat to their business. And they're like, unfortunately, we have to raise prices.
Yeah, to that point, I think a lot of people expected the price to go up once the Activision deal closed, and we were all kind of like expecting it. What I think the biggest issue is they introduced that new standard tier, and it very much makes no sense because, as you said, it only affects the console players, and so they're obviously trying to drive people to Ultimate. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but the messaging makes no sense. And the fact that instead of introducing like a cloud only tier, they introduce a tier on consoles, it really just makes it less appealing unless you just want the library of games, and then no messaging on how those first party titles will eventually get into Game Pass. Will it be a year, 6 months, case by case, which I think is what they eventually kind of alluded to, but it's hard to sell Game Pass now unless you're talking about the Ultimate tier. And that I think is like just what the messaging they want it to be. But every time they introduce like a chart or something, my rule of thumb is if you're selling me a game or a service and you have a chart, you've already lost me. I don't want to compare options. I just want to know what I'm getting, And so by introducing that standard tier and muddying the waters on which one for like the lay person, the common person that it maybe isn't, the hardcore gamer that just wants the best all the time. They're just going to look at this and go, I don't know anymore.
Imagine if HBO bought Netflix. I don't think they have the money for that, but sure. And they raise the price of Netflix that available, but you are no longer allowed to watch Netflix originals until everybody's told you how they end.
Right. Yeah, it's bananas.
And they're like, I don't know why anybody's upset about this. Like, that's
and then
weird.
the original promise of Game Pass, like the very launch of Game Pass, was day and date exclusives.
Day and date.
Yeah. And so now you're not even getting that because if you go with the core tier, you're just getting a small set of Game Pass. It's like to me that's like the sample, right?
Yeah.
You get.
It's basically what PlayStation Plus does for the essentials.
Yeah.
Basically,
it's just at least the PlayStation Plus tiers. That the middle tier kind of makes sense here. The new middle tier for Game Pass doesn't. I don't know why anyone would pay, what is it, the $12 a month now, as opposed to core, and instead of just going all in on Ultimate.
$12 a month, I would say, would be not that bad. Like that's not the worst price. No, it's $15 a month.
Okay.
Which means it's only about $4 cheaper than Ultimate.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're not like that. Sorry, it's $5 cheaper than Ultimate. But still at $5, you might as well just jump up to Ultimate because then you'll get your day in day, games. What you're thinking basically the $12, which is PC. PC is $12.
And PC did not lose
PC
exclusive launches. It literally keeps all the features. It is signaling just to the consoles. It honestly just feels more like Microsoft is just getting out of that like console mindset because then they launched the Fire Stick of like, hey, play your Xbox and here's the cloud bundle ready to freaking rock and roll.
Was they put that cloud bundle out for Prime Day, and that the branding on that's no console required. Play all the Xbox games, but there's no tier of Game Pass that's just cloud.
Yeah.
Which I find very odd that they wouldn't, as much as they're trying to target cloud customers, the only option you have is if you were cloud only is to buy the most expensive tier that I guess you benefit from, but only in the sense that you have access to those Game Pass games and the day and date exclusives. You're probably not playing on a PC if you were cloud only, and you're definitely not buying a console. So what's the benefit?
I think they did a huge disservice and just completely missed a huge potential for the marketing and communication. And I've stated this a couple times in the previous podcast, but I wouldn't have an issue if they're saying, listen, the ultimate tier price is going up. We're going to be, let's say, I think it's going up to like 20 or whatever, but let's say they were like, we're going to raise it to $25. But in this tier, you now have a World of Warcraft subscription. You now have an ESO premium subscription if you choose to use it. Oh, the value that has been communicated that the ultimate players get
right
kind of relates to the value of that the price has gone up, as opposed to the price has gone up, you don't get anything, and then anybody below you is really not going to be happy. They could have literally knocked that one out of the park, and because they've added WoW to GeForce Now, etc. And all of a sudden, imagine if you're sitting down going like, you know what, I haven't played WoW in a while, or I haven't seen that, I haven't or I never played it. But now all of a sudden I can play it on my console because I've gained, GeForce Now and all these things. Imagine just the population. It would disrupt, I think, the MMOs as just a general business model, because all of a sudden you can sub to this game directly if you choose, or you can be in the ultimate tier. So Microsoft, I think, did a huge disservice to themselves in their marketing, because they didn't add any value alongside the increase of the ultimate price. They just bumped it up a couple of bucks. I think they should have just said, screw it, we're going to just bump it up by $7, and we're going to add all this other subscription as an option for us. So that way, essentially, anybody who's on the ultimate tier goes, oh, I just got more for my money. What do y'all think about that?
Even on the opposite side, though, like if you were just looking for a value add, I thought, a long time ago, they could easily do something like Audible does, where you get so many credits to get some selection of games that you could like even just permanently own or tied to your account, so long as you're subscribed or however the Audible credits work.
Yeah.
But, something along those lines would have even been better than just here's a price increase, deal with it,
When it comes to WoW, by the way, sorry, Chris.
Go ahead.
I'm going to add with WoW, when it comes to WoW, you have those monthly bonus things, right? You'll know this more than me, called trader tokens, right? They could easily just offer some trader tokens in the Game Pass subscription. Would that be a thing they could do, Chris?
I mean, there's a reason those are kind of capped, how many you can in theory get, but also every cap in WoW has eventually been lifted in trade for money. So sure. They could absolutely just give something away. They could give boosts. They can give away. There's all sorts of metrics at this point. I don't even think they know what the word classic means, because they don't. They're just like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we just took all the things in retail and shoved them into classic? And it's like, you've defeated the purpose of classic. Like, I don't know what classic was for. And so now we're gonna have to come out with some new word like vintage in a few years, and they're gonna discover suddenly that you think you do, but you don't, but actually you do. A large number of you would like to play WoW without the retail features, and we are now excited to announce WoW Vintage, which will be
Classic
WoW
Plus
Classic
too,
without all the retail stuff, and then they'll slowly forget what that is, because they'll realize like, oh, if we can get people subscribed, imagine if we could get them buying gold. So, sorry, I'm frustrated at WoW too. I'm just generally frustrated at all of this, but like when Game Pass first said first parties are day and date, that was more of a sample. That's, I think, the word you used. It was not representative of the whole library. There weren't that many first parties.
Right.
As Microsoft has done a better job acquiring a wider variety, there is a larger number of games than ever before, to a wider variety of types of gamers across the entire spectrum that like at least some form of Microsoft first party game. And so for them to say, hey, all of that is available day and date, might be too much of a value add. So if instead you say, you know what, really it's only kind of the true core first parties, but like things that we acquired through Activision aren't going to apply. Things that we acquired through ZeniMax aren't going to apply.
I would cancel my sub to Game Pass
if
they did that.
And they're not going to be day and date within the standard tier. But the fact that the standard tier makes it sound like nothing's going to be day and date.
Yeah.
Like if the next Halo comes out, it's not going to be day and date.
Yeah.
That's
nothing is day and date.
That's
nothing is day and date.
That's why everybody's
and so like because it's not like what Brian said, where it's like, hey, there's a value add. Hey, you know what? The original statement was never meant to include a WoW sub, but now we have this new higher tier that is going to include a WoW sub. Like it came from an additive direction. Like look at how big we've gotten. We we are raising the price because we are raising the value instead of just we are bigger, so we'll just leave people behind. It just feels like they're phasing people out, and they're almost marketing it in a way like, well, just unfortunately, some people were idiots and bought consoles. Like, I don't know what you were thinking.
At those bundle of dummies.
Well, I mean, to that point, like even now, I'm finding myself using my Xbox far less because I've recently upgraded my PC to be more of a gaming rig. Excuse me, and if it's not available on PC, I can probably get it on my Switch, or I could go buy a PlayStation for those exclusives if I don't want to wait for those to eventually hit the PC. But that the fact that the just the console tier was hit, and it's really for new subs that are getting the worst end of the deal, because they did say if your existing Game Pass original tier is still auto renew, or however you have it, you can keep it. But I feel like in a couple of years, they'll do what
you let that lapse,
right,
and then you're out.
In a couple of years, you'll probably start seeing like messages going out like, "Hey, we're not supporting this tier anymore. You have to move," just like cell carriers do with
the Verizon Ultimate plans.
Yeah, those
for like $1,000 third party now, because there's 12 of them still in circulation.
Right, and so you have that. I just see that happening to those people, so they can just finally just go, okay, we don't want exclusives day and date unless you pay for Ultimate, And again, I just don't understand why they chose to talk about it in the way they did. But it's not really that surprising given the last few years of Microsoft's messaging. It's like, hey, we're going to say something really confusing, and then in a couple months we might say something better, but it's still going to confuse people.
It just feels like a series of missed opportunities, and that for it to be received as anti-consumer, even if that wasn't their intention, it's not a hard perception to understand.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Like I don't think it's weird at all.
Microsoft this whole year, though, it's just been constant. Like they haven't truly communicated their plan. We're going to bring some more games to PlayStation, yada yada yada. I think their big plan is to bring Steam to the Xbox and just open up the Xbox ecosystem to multiple stores. However, it's like we're just in this constant state of turmoil and chaos, and it's just like what's going on? And then this just added more fuel to the fire of like, I'm on the Ultimate tier, which is great. I like it as long as I get games day and date. It's great, especially as having a family. It's awesome because there's just a whole bunch of games. I'm not having to worry about it.
The thing is, though, I'm just going to add in here. The thing is, though, like everyone's like, oh, Microsoft will eventually add Steam, which I know they plan to, or they've got the GeForce Now. But right now, GeForce Now works okay because you can use a browser to kind of go around issues, because you can use an old browser to use an old version of GeForce Now. But the moment you start getting native apps of Steam, GeForce Now, and all that lot, there's a huge chance that a lot, not all of your library, but you will see a significant amount of your library become locked off when you're playing on the Xbox version. I'm not going to say this is guaranteed, but I can see a lot of companies pulling out, like, you cannot play that on that device. Like, expect the PlayStation games are on Steam. Expect the PlayStation versions on Steam to not be playable on your Xbox.
It's going to be interesting to see, because I think that's just going to open up a whole legal battle, because essentially, like, when you sold the game,
there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, I think it's going to open. I think there's going to be lawsuits. I don't know which way the lawsuits will go. I think it's going
to require Microsoft to reclassify the Xbox as a Windows device.
Yeah,
just to start that would an existing.
That would be
systems.
Anyway,
right? But then all of a sudden, like I think there would be real serious legal trouble if you said that you can play this game on PC, just not a PC that was manufactured with any kind of brand of that. Like all of a sudden, that in and of itself is just a consumer nightmare, and I think that's where I do not believe that will happen, just because it just seems like a pointless endeavor. At that point, Microsoft Xbox no longer exists, and now you're going to pick and choose which PCs outside of the hardware requirements, right? Like if your machine cannot run that game because it does not meet the minimum specs, and that makes sense.
That just becomes a licensing nightmare, right? Because now, it's on the publishers to go, is that an Xbox PC, or is that and then they could start blacklisting like anybody just arbitrarily, and then so it's like, sorry, you bought a Lenovo. No, we don't support that anymore.
Lenovo hasn't paid our fee, and it's like, I get that argument. I've heard that from other people from the Sony camp, Chili, before. I just think it actually opens up a worse bag of chips. That maybe they do that for a short period, but then ultimately it just is like, what are y'all doing? Go ahead.
No, it will be permanent. You already see it with GeForce Now, where you cannot just put a game on GeForce Now that, even though they support Steam. Yeah. Steam then has to get approval from the publisher, and then that publisher then has to approve it for GeForce Now.
I think that's going to also end in a lawsuit, because from a consumer perspective, I could go rent a machine you could apply that same logic to an internet cafe, because it's like you're renting a machine regardless of where it is, physically or not. I do wonder if that will also at some point make its way into the court system from a consumer advocacy.
Right. I can play my Xbox games on Brian's Xbox.
Right.
If my house unfortunately burns down today and Brian says, you know what, I got 5 kids, what's a couple more? Get in here. Get the dogs. It's fine.
We're
I show up. I can download my games to his Xbox and play it just fine. And so
but you're still asking Brian for permission to come to his house to download it.
But I'm not asking Blizzard for permission.
Yeah,
you're not asking Blizzard.
You're not having to seek out the publisher's approval
to play with my license. I don't own the game, but I do own my license on his hardware. Yeah. So for me to say, yes, I approve GeForce Now to, and they approve me for having an account, and I approve them for holding onto my login credentials or whatever for the purpose of me to use them. If there's some agreement between me and GeForce Now, sure. I'm going to pay them X dollars at whatever. Fine. I'm going to do Brian's dishes, whatever the agreement may be, that's fine. But Blizzard's not in the room. So for Blizzard to say, no, you don't own WoW, but you do pay for the ability to have access to it, but only on some hardware. All of this just makes me wish I'd gone to law school just so I know what the hell's going on. Because every one of these articles comes out and it's just like, it feels like it should be common sense, but it just gets so messy.
Well, the whole digital licensing landscape is, I think, intentionally confusing, but it's really frustrating just all across the board, because when you start doing DRM on everything, you suddenly go, oh, well, I can't buy the game anymore because we lost the license to it, or the license to the property, And so then it's like, well, now I can't even re-download it because it's not available anymore. Or, hey, Steam didn't pay their fee, so they can't sell the game anymore. And it's a mess for consumers in the end, because you run the risk of literally your entire library could disappear arbitrarily because you have no ownership. You just have permission to play the games you paid money for.
Permission that was grantable and revocable by some 600-page document that you had to rapidly scroll through to get to the game. So none of us read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, those experts that we were talking about earlier that are supposed to be looking out for the consumers could, maybe draft up some legislation that would require those terms of service to be, layman's terms. Well,
I do think readable. AI might actually kind of more or less assist with that, where it's just like, all right, give me an AI, give me just the summary of the key points of what I'm agreeing to, and who knows, people will still most likely scroll past even that when that happens. But
it'd be better if gaming had a responsible consumer advocacy group that was formed to do more than throw a letter on a box, because what they could have done is they could have written a standard terms of service for live service games or games that are not going to receive live service, and there could have just been these two standard licensing agreements, and every few years when those update, it affects all games, but they're all the same agreement, because that's how real estate works, is that you have these real estate groups that come in and set standardized contracts. That's how architecture works, is you have an architecture related group that comes in and sets standardized contracts. And it doesn't mean there can't be specific little addendums. And maybe that just gets muddy because it's international. But like at least within the US, why are we not on a standardized agreement? Because that happens in a ton of other spaces.
The ESRB actually, though, isn't a consumer advocacy group. They're a publisher developer. Like that's who they work for. That's how they get their funding. And so I agree. I think one of the things that gaming could have benefited from the long run is having that lobby group of just like, okay, here's what represents the gamer, the consumer's interests, and just having a seat at the table. Because otherwise, it's just you just get steamrolled, and it's like, all right. And then the thing is that within gaming, you see kind of the addictive mindset, the tribal mindset that it's like it's hard to get gamers to really rally behind anything. It does happen, but it is so rare that it's like, people, because you'll see the people come in saying microtransactions, all we have to do is just boycott them and they'll go away. It's like, well, good luck to you, because clearly, like, we have been boycotting the microtransactions and their profits have only gotten up.
Call of Duty boycott groups on Steam where everybody just joins the group and we're not going to buy Call of Duty. And then day and date, 90% of those players are playing Call of Duty, And
you can't boycott everything. Like at some point you have to just be a consumer. And so like, I think it's great that you drive an electric car because you care about the polar bears, and you don't drink Bud Light because they picked somebody you didn't like, and you don't shop at Walmart because they had corruption in Central or South America alleged, and you don't, and it's like, and then you don't, and then you don't, and then you don't. And it's like, okay, but at what point do I do? Like at what point am I allowed to partake in anything? I can't shop at this clothing brand. I can't drive this certain car. I can't drink these things. I can't eat this food. Like at some point. And then like the first time I pull like water out of the tap, somebody's like, well, you don't care about the rainforest now. It's like, I did the 50 other things.
There's no
where do I, and so then you get done with all this and you're like, I just want to play a game. And they're like, well, did you know one of their employees did something awful to another employee? And you're like,
I can't keep up.
Can I just play a game?
I just wanted to relax.
Like everything has to be a cause now because we have so much information. And when we were originally like a tribal entity and we would have lived in groups of 20, if somebody did something awful, somebody that was against the collective morality, we would have ostracized that person, and they would have not been able to have access to food or medicine or safety or reproduction. Like they would have been isolated. And so society said, even if you have an awful thought, keep it to yourself because you want to stay in the group. And then the internet came and there was anonymity. And now you don't have to follow any of those rules. So we got to just let all of our inner ostracizable person come out to play, and some were more intense than others, and you found a group that aligned with you, and you're like, hey, you have an awful thought, I have that same awful thought. It's probably not awful then because we share it. And now we're starting to see cancel culture go, okay, but now we're back to the collective village. We can cancel people again, just like we could when we were a group of 20. But now that's gotten to the point where it's like, I can't, but can we stop Microsoft? But then what? I have to go to Sony, who can come out and say like, don't you love console generations? Like, well, then I guess I can't buy that. So then you have to go to Nintendo. Yeah, Nintendo has a perfect record with everything. So where do I just play games? Like, which gaming platform am I allowed to just like the game?
That's where you just turn off social media and go, that's enough internet for today.
I'll Google it on my child labor phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I still think that's the best strategy is just setting limits on yourself, especially as it relates to social media and information, because we can get easily so much news and information that it's just like, okay, like I can't even process this emotionally. And then if it's especially ruining your day, which we've seen, new studies show, like if you consume like 3 hours or more social media, like the risk of mental health issues popping up in you is just going up extremely high. And it's just like, all right, let's all just take a break, or all like, but the only real answer to that is you're going to have to self-regulate. And so if you guys are struggling, if everything looks bleak, just step away, delete the app off the phone, or set the phone somewhere where you don't need it. You'll feel that it's like a drug. It's like you'll feel that pull.
Oh, they've probed our brains to find out what is the thing they can give us that we literally cannot avoid.
Yeah. To that point, I mean, I found great benefit in disabling notifications for most all social media. I don't have any of that. And then focus modes, like on the iPhone, like if it's work time, I can't even see the icons for half of these apps, so I don't even think about it. Which is super helpful for the self-regulating side. And I guess to kind of bring us back to the Game Pass discussion real quick, because we got real dark there.
Sorry. I was trying to get caught up for the show because last week we just talked about 14 the whole time. I'm like, let me go get a feel for the news. And then then I just had every search term I was doing to prep for the show had news in it, which meant that I was just like hooked a garden hose of just gross to my face for the last 3 hours prepping for this morning. It's like, I hate the world.
But yeah, it's easy to do. But back to Game Pass. I remember a few was it last year? It was a few months ago. They were trialing a family plan for Game Pass in like Brazil. And I think that would have been a better sell. Just telling me that I can like get like 5 accounts on a family plan.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And that I would have paid whatever the increase is, because that's the family plan for the Switch is what I pay for.
I pay for the family plan on Switch too. 100%.
My daughter and my wife all have individual Switches that we each own and play on. So the family plan was like a no-brainer there. And then I know that there are people that I may or may not be one of those people who have friends who are willing to jump on those accounts.
I have a question.
And be a part of that.
If your daughter decides that she wants to age in a linear fashion and one day becomes an 18-year-old adult, is she allowed to separate her account off?
Well, I mean, because I'm a responsible parent and I have parental controls in place, it should like open up to her automatically. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know all the details on the Switch side, but I can remove her from the family account if I want to.
I would like it to be like Duolingo. Like Duolingo, I think is great. What you end up is everybody has their own base account, and then I can upgrade my account and up to, let's say in your example, 4 others. And so I can just send Brian a link, and Brian, you pay for standard. You don't get Halo Day and Date because Microsoft said screw you, but don't worry, it's on me. I pay the $25, you pay the 10, and I can just piggyback you off of me. I think that's a much more ethical interpretation of this, because I think the frustration with like family accounts is like the Netflix is like, well, we didn't mean roommates. And it's like, okay, but I don't know what to tell you. Like we all live in the same.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's a much more like everybody's a user.
Yeah.
All have to be linked to each other forever. But like,
and also what do you like, I know it sounds stupid, but like for some people, their friends are family. Like to them, that is the exact same term because they're closer to their friends than they are their family.
And Netflix use specific terms like live in the same household or live in the same address or things like that, which could mean, if you and some buddies in an apartment building all want to go in on a family, Spotify plan. Well, I mean, technically you're the same address. I don't know how that, down to that granular detail. Is that ethically wrong? Maybe, probably. But we can't be the only
for gaming.
Yeah.
Like I play games with my friends from college. I don't typically play games with my wife. So for the purpose of gaming, they are much more related to my gaming consumption than she is.
That was something that Microsoft back during the botched Xbox One launch, when they were talking about digital game sharing and all of that, that was something that they had talked about doing, which was allowing you and a group of friends to share certain licenses. But everybody got and to be fair, it was justifiable anger, but they got so angry that they missed some of the finer details of things that Microsoft could be doing now. But I just don't, I think they're so lost in their own sauce right now.
We lost SimCity as a franchise during all that mess.
That was like some of the most
war there.
That was like the appealing side of the digital only approach that Microsoft was trying to push on everybody at that time was, well, if I can still share, because right now, like at my home Xbox, as it were, my daughter can log in on her own Xbox account and access all the Game Pass games that I have access to and all the services just locked behind her own account and her own parental controls. But she's, I don't have to buy her own account, it's just
cool.
I think if they went ahead and just went and implemented that family plan, right, then it's a lot more appealing to share Game Pass access,
I'm with you 100%. I've been like, can we get a family plan? Because I have Ultimate. Well, we know it exists, but they're still, I guess, trying to figure it all out. Because you're 100% right. I have the Switch family plan because that is obviously with the family makes so much sense. It pays for it, it covers itself, and we're not sitting here worried about it. Now, I do not have their expansion pass and all of that. That in and of itself, I thought that was just like extra annoyance. Like either just increase the price. I get it. I'm just like, all right, I don't want to add on for especially for classic games when I'd rather just buy them or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. Thank y'all. Thank you for bringing that up, especially about the family plan. Because like I immediately go to World of Warcraft because being that I see that it is on GeForce Now is just such a really good value to me as a consumer. And I'm still waiting. Yeah, because Chili brings up some really good points. You can't play the Sony games that are on Steam on GeForce Now. So there's clearly some kind of licensing deal behind the scenes, and or Sony wants to make sure that they push people into the cloud streaming, because I hear rumors that the PlayStation 5 cloud will be soon accessible from PC. If that hasn't already happened, which is going to be a huge value add to Sony to be able to sell obviously their games on that service as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. I know Sony also their cloud, when we start talking about them versus Microsoft, their cloud outperforms the X Cloud that is currently there, because you cannot play your games that you own on X Cloud. It's only through what is in Gamepass.
That's another thing. That's like a whole other argument. That's like, where is that? Because why wasn't that day and date X Cloud's like beta launch?
Right.
I don't understand. There's some business decision keeping that from happening, but I cannot imagine a technical reason that those games,
by the way,
don't run.
Technical reason, but the legal reason is more the issue. Like, but you can play your PlayStation games on PC, your cloud games.
You can connect right. Cloud. You can connect right into kind of your PS5 in the cloud as not connecting to a physical PS5, but they added that because I know that they were working on it.
I think you can, I haven't downloaded it. I just see the app where it says you could download the PlayStation Plus on your app and how to start streaming PlayStation Plus games on your PC.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that then, because I know that they were working on it, but I was like, I hadn't heard whether there was kind of a full announcement launch or something like that. But that's for me what I'm that's gonna be valuable to me. And when they update the PS Portal to be able to connect into that cloud server as well, not just stream to your local, I was like, let's freaking go.
Get that thing from being a single-use device. I would like the Portal could be a better sell if it launched with cloud gaming of some kind.
I'm more sold on the Portal than any other device if it was a cloud-based. I know people don't like cloud-based systems, but I much prefer the idea of a cloud-based handheld than anything like the Steam or any Steam handheld, just because those will always have a hard limit on how long they will last.
Yep.
At least with cloud-based gaming, once you purchase that device, technically it should be able to, if I bought the cloud now, the PS Cloud now, and it supported the PS Portal now, and it supported cloud gaming. Technically, when the PS6 comes out and they start doing PS6 cloud gaming, it should still run it.
The biggest technical limitation of a cloud-only handheld is if the Wi-Fi standards update, or you want a better display, like there's a better technology for displays that come out, or better batteries, and then you're not limited by CPU power or not to some degree CPU and GPU power, because you still have to be able to stream it and everything. But I like the longer term, longer device lifespan potential. It's just I don't.
Oh yeah, dude.
I think
outside of the device getting dropped by your kids, which that's happened to me. Outside of that physical reality, it just extends the life of the device.
Yeah,
and the life of the battery.
I was gonna say, and the actual battery life. Like eventually, you might have to upgrade because the battery life degrades over cycles. Like once you've reached so many cycles, it's basically. It's basically unusable then. So eventually you will have to upgrade. I'm not saying that you won't ever have to upgrade, but your ability to have to upgrade will be lessened.
I don't know if anybody, I run into a problem now where I forget to charge for weeks. And then when I go to sit down, it's like, oh yeah, I haven't plugged this in but I've been playing it, but it will last me over the course of a week or two before I'm like, oh yeah, I need to plug that in because of the battery actually finally drained on it, and it's absolutely incredible. Now, let's pivot into. I know we were going to talk. Maybe we'll talk about Throne of Liberty next week, but as we're getting closer to the end of the show, I do want to talk about No Man's Sky and Light No Fire with you guys, because last year at the Game Awards, Sean Murray announced Light No Fire as the first true open world game. And they show it off. It's a planet size. So you think, No Man's Sky, all of these quadrillions of planets that you can travel and explore, now down into, we're going to render an entire planet and its ecosystem. And I'm on board. Like, as soon as I saw that trailer, I was like, I want to know more. It looks like it's an action RPG with some building mechanics, and it's multiplayer and fantasy based. I was like, literally, it's every checkbox that I checked, and we'll have to wait and see. Now, since then, it's been very, very quiet, and then yet No Man's Sky has been pumping out their free updates, and now out 8 years, celebrated the 5.0 release, and they launched 5.0, and it looks like Light No Fire. Like, the visual fidelity that they brought up into that game, I think it's like it kind of matches to what we saw in the Light No Fire trailer, and so that has me incredibly hyped for that game. How do you guys feel about that? Obviously No Man's Sky had a lot of drama. I still see, anytime I talk about it, people coming out of the woodwork mad at Sean Murray, and I'm just like, the guy has released 8 years of free content updates.
It's one of the best comebacks I've ever seen in gaming, because you have botched launches all the time, but No Man's Sky is still just cranking out good content updates, and they've got a very supportive community. Yeah. And you've got people that are like, Sean Murray, let us give you money. We bought the game, but you're still supporting a game that we enjoy. I'm just thoroughly impressed by what his team has managed to do and turn around. That's so cool. And the newest updates are just straight fire. They look fantastic.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. There's a comedian that tells this story about being a kid, and he didn't get a Happy Meal because his parents didn't have enough money, and it was back when you had to pay for Happy Meals with cash or gold, and they were 79 cents a piece. That was the only two ways to pay, and so they said there wasn't any way, and they only had $2, and so there wasn't enough for all the kids to get Happy Meals. So they said, would it be okay if you, as the oldest, didn't get a Happy Meal? And he said, at the time I said yes, and I was disappointed, but I thought I would be rewarded for my sacrifice, and instead I am now 43, and my siblings, every time they see me, go, would it be okay if you didn't get a Happy Meal? He's like, I'm still being mocked for this thing to this day. And that's what I picture with Sean Murray, is through, whether it was his fault or not, it was a crappy launch. There was a lot of things said, but he has shown up and done they've done everything right, just repeatedly for years. And people are just like, yeah, but your game still sucks though, right? And it's but it doesn't. It's a great game. What caused me to pick it back up years later, after I'd heard it was a great game, and was like, yeah, sure, was I got my first VR headset, and it was one of the handful of titles that was we support full VR. And when I Googled it, people were like, yes, great VR. And it got me back in, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to play this game without VR even. I was just impressed. So the fact that they are taking that technology and saying, okay, well, now let's apply it to a different space. I'm seeing a little bit of criticism about that. They're just reusing the same thing. Well, where's that? I mean, if we let Bethesda still be in business, then No Man's Sky can do whatever they want. They have released the same game 87 times, and we make fun of it, but we keep buying it. So I'm excited for it. I think it looks awesome. It'd be great.
Yeah, I cannot wait to learn more. And I'm honestly hoping that, from a lessons learned perspective, when I go back and listen to what Sean Murray was saying, I resonate with that mindset. It's that it sounds like an excited developer that's talking about everything this game's going to do, but he's not effectively communicating expectations around timeframes of those things. Because I even tweeted out, what does No Man's Sky not do that was promised today? And overwhelmingly the response is no, everything he said that was going to be in the game is in the game. And so then I go back with that context and look at everything he said, and he was just like, yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And all of a sudden it became, we're going to do this at launch, and I do wonder, like, you know, obviously
he gave a Yoshi P 10-year plan.
Yeah.
We were like, day and date,
it's happening. And so it just makes me even more excited. So, but my hope from a lessons learned is that we see them do a Light No Fire early access, because that label, and even Force Gaming tweeted this out, and I think it's actually very fair, and maybe we should talk about it in this way. He's that there's really two categories of early access: early access, and polished early access. But regardless of that different split, early access is such a blessing label that it just, yes, you're going to still piss off people who are wanting and hungry. Like, you know, No Rest for the Wicked has a massive update next week. I'm so excited to play it and go hands-on with it. But that's not to say that people who have done everything in the game, you know, don't have a legitimate frustration with the current state of that game. It's like, yeah, we're waiting for more content. Good news, it's coming. No Rest for the Wicked is a polished early access game, where PAX Day is a very, very early access game. And so there's a clear difference in that. But still, both are protected by that label. And if you look at Light No Fire, launching in an early access, having that label to sit here and say, yeah, okay, there's a bug there, there's an issue there. Plus, you add into their history of the last 8 years of working till it's right, delivering it also for free. Who knows if they're going to continue that, deliver it for free going forward? But I don't see them changing that. But let us give you money, Sean. Let us give you more money, because this is something I think is truly exciting.
It's where a small cosmetic goes a long way. It's where let me buy a helmet that has a little gummy bear at the top of the antenna. It's a minor difference, and it's $8. And just make it really clear, this is just because we've had some people saying they want to support us. It's just a gummy bear on the end of antenna. I promise that's all it's going to be. And people are like, well, why would you buy that? I think you'll find a lot of people are like, have my $8, man. That's awesome.
Well, it's like when you play any free to play game. If you get enough enjoyment out of it, and this is just my way I handle it. If I play it enough, I might buy a battle pass or an expansion or something. You know, that because I went in for free and I found more enjoyment than I expected. You know, No Man's Sky, the only reason I really ever played it is because it was on Gamepass. And that was well after the bad launch. You know, that was after the first couple of rounds of updates. And I was like, man, this is a pretty solid game. You know, I was thoroughly surprised by it. So if I've been playing it for the last 8 years, I would love to be able to support beyond that initial purchase, because what you bought isn't what you have right now.
And it's a great use of collector's editions. It's a great use of
sorry.
I don't buy cosmetics, but I do buy if I like a developer, I'll buy their next bundle. Even if I don't even think I don't know how much I'm going to play that game, I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy it, but it's like part of that money feels like I'm thanking you for the past experience.
Yeah. And Jordan has a good kind of pushback to people who are frustrated that some things might be being reused, which from a developer perspective, I think is such a healthy kind of mindset, because both games can benefit, but reusing existing things but making it better, I believe that's called innovation.
The armchair devs on Twitter or X that are just like, oh, this is the same tree. It's like, of course it's the same tree. I'm not gonna make a whole new tree, but I just need a tree. You know,
just need a tree, man. Just need a tree. Now, what's
especially
interesting
in early access, why would I if this game gets to that point where the tree is the one thing that's not letting it nail in its identity, then let's go spend some time making a tree. But right now, this isn't Tree Simulator. Just reuse the tree.
And by the way, before we move on too far, I just want to say also don't forget that when No Man's Sky originally did release and everyone complained about the lack of features, the company itself lost most of the gameplay and a lot of data because the entire building got flooded.
Yeah.
And that's what didn't help. Like they had a huge flood which damaged a lot of their servers and a lot of their data. So they had a release date that they had to hit.
As a developer, though, I will push back that there's a level of responsibility that you need to ensure to protect your source code. And clearly, when your building got flooded, that meant you were storing it on site and you didn't have the appropriate backup. That's an IT failure more than anything else. But that did happen. That is the reality. I think that did set them back, obviously, from what they wanted.
Lessons learned, right? I'm sure they have 2 or 3 offsite backups at this point.
Yeah. in different geographical locations.
Right.
Like there's a really good standard. And now, especially when you look at 8 years later, when you look at how the evolution of cloud, when we talked about it from a gaming perspective, but I do a lot of cloud development. Mark also, who's regular on this podcast, does cloud-based solution development. And it's like, you want it geographically located, you click this button, and this is what it's going to cost you. And thankfully, it's like you can scale so much better in today's world. But I do want to say, before we go into the 20 questions, Dave sharing that they announced the team's just 12 people. I think that makes a lot of sense. I do think that number will go up once they're kind of getting closer, but it does tell me that they have a real tight vision. I think what we've seen with AAA games and some of the struggle that they have is that the costs and the risks has gotten so high, the vision doesn't really get communicated. It's hard to really get everybody behind, one individual's crazy freaking dream. And I think Hello Games, with a smaller team, is able to come up with a real clear vision, execute it, and then essentially add in any additional support that they need over time. So I think that's where I wonder with AA games going forward, is that will we see games made by smaller teams, and thus they're not going to have that AAA kind of quality out the gate, but they're going to be a lot of fun because we didn't have to worry about all the voice acting and all this, that, and the other thing.
I got a buddy that works for Apple that describes how small his teams are.
Yeah,
and that's a huge company, but they have many products, and so a company can be large, but each product on its own should just be the most qualified people. This idea that if we all go to lunch and the conversation continues, everybody should be caught up at the end of lunch. There shouldn't be, it's okay, well, let's get that out to the other 226 people who are all going to read that differently. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And, when you look at the bigger companies that do that well, I mean, back to the Game Pass thing, when Apple releases multiple price points, they do it as almost a form of rungs on a ladder, where each rung up makes a little sense. We've designed a base product that serves 80, 90, 99% of the population, but you might want a little more storage. So we offer that as a rung up. We have a version with a better display. So we offer that as a rung up. Oh, well, now you're in the better version with the better display. Well, don't you want that with more storage? And we offer that as a rung up. And so you kind of find yourself accidentally falling up that. So I think it just comes down to execution, and execution is much easier with a small group in general. I'm not a developer, but I do work in a space that what my job has a very small team. And I integrate with other very small teams, and it impresses me how nimble our company can be, because it's just 3 or 4 all very small teams playing nice together.
Yep. Yeah, you can get more done with fewer people working in the same direction than you can uncontrolled.
It just requires more management. You're trying to steer a bigger ship, and that just means that you have to have the right people in place.
We don't have middle managers.
Yeah,
I answer directly to a C-suite person.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so
amazing.
Nice. All right, let's get into 20 questions. Chris has got the game for us to guess this week. We are going to see if we can't get it in 20. We'll see.
We've won too many in a row, so.
Oh, no, he's bringing...
Strap it in.
All right. Let's go with Chili. Chili, why don't you take the first question?
I think I've had the first question a few times now, so if anyone else wants to, hear it. Especially with him saying it's that difficult. I don't want to be the... Fine. Let's just go a nice easy one. Is it pre-2000s?
It was released before 2000.
Okay. All right. Chrono.
Is it a PC only game?
It is not a PC only game.
But that doesn't mean it's not on PC though. You just said PC only, so it could be on multiple platforms.
Was this released before 1990?
It was not released before 1990.
We got our decade.
Was it on a CD?
It was not on a CD.
Okay, so that PC would have probably been CD at that time.
And also PlayStation.
Yeah, PlayStation. Do we want to try to narrow down the time frame some more? What do you think, Chrono? Your question to you.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, by the way, I don't know how picky he's going to be, because I know I said CD, and wasn't the Dreamcast 1998, which technically
That was
isn't
Dreamcast
CD.
is a CD.
Yeah, it's CD.
No, Dreamcast is not a CD.
It's kind of a DVD light.
It was
CD, was it
GD-ROMs.
GD-ROMs. It's still
This was
Yeah.
not being capable of being thrown as a frisbee.
There we go. Thank you.
I just
Everything's
wanted,
a frisbee if you throw it hard enough.
between us. Like, I just wanted to clarify, like,
The old
between us,
AOL
like, in case
time
he's
discs.
being so picky that he's like, no, it's on Dreamcast because technically it's not a CD, it's a GD.
I see where you're going.
Like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Is it were we going for time frame?
It's up to you. You can take it
Okay.
anyway. I just
Is it a 3D game or is it like a 2D? Is it a 3D game? Where I want to go.
I just want to pull up some images from the game because I don't trust my 1990s memory. Because I remember it being
Quick,
awesome.
zoom in on his eyes and get the reflection.
I remember it being awesome. Yes, it was 3D.
All right,
all right. All right.
I just
cool.
didn't want. I just want to make sure I wasn't filling in 3D. Like,
Yeah.
Mario was also 3D. Like, it's
Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Tetris in 3D.
Was this released on the Nintendo 64?
It was released on the N64.
Cool. Excellent.
All right.
Uh,
I don't.
Am
know
Am I
where to go.
next?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chili's next. Sorry, I thought you were
Okay.
thinking.
Whoops.
Was it published by Nintendo?
It was not published by Nintendo.
So that's like, so we've got a limit of 2 games then because of all the third-party titles that N64 got.
All right. Is the game multiplayer?
I believe it was. Yes.
Okay.
Just trying to verify.
3D multiplayer N64 game. Let's see here. Is this a shooter?
It is not a shooter.
Okay. Chili? Would they? I wonder. Oh, anyway, it's like we want to focus on a genre. I was like, I wonder if like a sports game like Madden or whatever. Would
I was
be
going to
like
ask,
3D and
was it a sports
multiplayer.
game?
It's not a sports game.
Okay.
Which means I'm going to guess it's racing.
Oh, let's see.
Like wrestling or something.
right.
Wrestling.
I mean,
Wrestling.
But I don't know if you'd classify wrestling as a sport.
I mean,
I thought it was like a soap opera, but that's just me.
it's a sport
I told
opera.
my older brother it was fake. And I have a big spot on the back of my head from where he proved to me that metal folding chairs to the back of the head do hurt. Like the lump back here, it's like calcified, like my skull is thicker. Where I found out that at least some element of wrestling is real, especially when you use a real folding chair.
That's so funny
was
because
gonna
like I've always stated, I was like, wrestling is the weirdest thing on the planet because it's the only sport that evolves into a daytime soap opera.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you wrestled in high school and college? That's athletic.
Were
wrestled
you also in
professionally?
theater?
Yeah.
Have you ever been
Perfect.
thrown through a table?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it my turn? I'm
Yeah.
so, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's see. We got a multiplayer N64 not shooter.
Not
Not published by
sports.
Nintendo.
Not
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 published
published by Nintendo.
We know what
Oh.
it's not.
We know what it's not. Do we want to shoot for racing?
Yeah. Is it a racing game?
It is a racing game.
There we
Okay.
go. Okay. All right. All right. So, and it's not published by Nintendo, so that rules out Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Man, my brain just goes to either Cruising USA or
Right.
Ridge Racer. but I don't know if there's any others out there.
Well,
Let me.
I'm looking. There's also Cruising World.
Cruising
That's
World.
also.
And those are multiplayer. I can't remember. The
yeah, the 2 and 4.
Okay. Is this a part of the Cruising series?
No.
Okay.
It's 11. I don't think you guys are gonna get this.
I got my question ready.
I mean, I can't remember. Did we ask if about racing game?
Yeah, he confirmed it was racing.
Okay. Oh. Is it an arcade style racer?
I don't know what that means.
I mean, like Gran Turismo Sim, Horizon is like arcade. You know, like Burnout.
I don't know how to answer that.
I mean, even the cruising games are more arcade.
Yeah, I would say that.
Like,
Which I can't
you got
think of too
sim
many-
races or you got arcade races. Arcade races are normally like more fun and point related, while sim are like, well, simulation based.
It's Forza versus Forza Horizon.
I don't think this was teaching us how to live our real lives.
So yeah,
Gran Turismo made F1 drivers. Like,
Yeah.
like there's a real driver in F1 now who came up through Gran Turismo. There's a movie about it.
Yeah.
I
There's
don't think
yeah.
anybody lives their life based on this game.
There's
Okay,
there's a handful of racers
I don't know.
that are not by Nintendo as well, like Micro Machines 64,
Yeah, that was
got
kind of my
Top
next
Gear.
question. Then was it
San Francisco Extreme Rush, Beetle Adventure.
was this game based or a licensed IP, like like a well-known IP?
It's a good question. Yeah.
I don't think of it as a well-known IP, but it was a series.
You could be quite close with Micro Machines then maybe.
So Micro
it
Machines
wasn't an IP known outside of gaming.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, that's what I was asking because like Lego Racers stuck out in my mind because that's like a deep cut.
So, like a couple of publishers, if we want to try to narrow it down to a publisher, Electronic Arts, Midway, Chemo, Codemasters, like we want to see if we can't figure out
that
a
makes
publisher.
sense to me.
Was this published by Midway?
No.
All right.
That's 13.
I mean, was it published by Codemasters?
No, 14. Hope I didn't make it too hard.
No, this is fun.
I didn't pick games I haven't owned and then I don't have fond memories of.
Right, I'm on 16. How are you on 14?
Great. Then it got worse.
Really? You just gotta let him go.
I don't want us to cheat. Like, if we're on 16, we're on 16. I don't want to.
A lack
rather be
of
wrong.
counting isn't cheating.
Maybe I lost count.
It is to me. I would rather
Okay.
us not get it right
All right.
and be correct in numbers.
Dang! Now the pressure on me to ask a really good question just went up. Ooh. Does it use real cars?
Sorry.
It is not a car racing game.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Let's see here.
See?
Yeah, Brian
That
normally
should
gives
have
us
helped.
like a little hint.
17.
By
That should have helped.
Does it feature Beetles?
Beatles? Like
Beatles.
the bug?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. It's not Beetle Adventure Racing.
Okay, so it's not a car. Oh, wait there. Wait.
That's probably the best clue. The not a car thing was probably the most isolating in a while. Previous like 6 or 7 questions.
I'd rule out the Star Wars because that's a known IP outside of gaming.
Ooh, I might.
I was thinking of Wave Racer for a second there, but no, that's
published by Nintendo.
Yeah.
We ruled out Midway as the publisher, right?
Yeah, Midway is not the publisher, and we also ruled out Codemasters. There's Acclaim as well, Electronic Arts, Ubisoft. But I would rule out Ubisoft because that's the Grand Prix. Like, I don't know what Scars is though. Extreme G, maybe like a futuristic racer. What was the It's not Wave Race, but there was something that was kind of like in the cat where you could shoot missiles and stuff, and it was kind of a racer you can attack. Was that Extreme G?
I think Extreme G had some weaponry to it. Didn't Wipeout as well? Wipeout was Midway though.
Yeah, Wipeout was PS1, right?
Wipeout 64.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, that was Midway. Yeah.
All right, whose question is it?
I think it was Chili's.
We'll go with the fact that is it a futuristic racer?
No. So is that 18?
Wow, this is tough, dude. I love it.
I've got a list of racing games pulled up on N64.
All right.
And in the Guess Who rules, I think I've rolled it down to. I'm just gonna ask: was this 18 or 19 that I'm wasting here?
This would be 19.
Is it Iggy's Wrecking Balls?
No.
Dang.
All right. What was some of the other ones? Because like I'm gonna see if we can't do a Hail Mary.
Let's see. These this is a list that says all N64 games. Micro Machines.
No, it's not that.
It's not
We
that.
know it's not Extreme G.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because Extreme G would be considered futuristic.
Yeah,
because
so
they're
we ruled
bikes.
that out.
Yeah.
Beetle Adventure, Wipeout. The only thing I could think on this list is Snowboard Kids.
Snowboard Kids.
That's technically a racer. Racing. I don't know.
I agree. All right. I have nothing else that I can think about that it could possibly be. So is it Snowboard Kids?
It is not. It is Road Rash 64.
Road
Rash.
Oh my god!
Did you guys not play that?
I only played the PS1 game. And I played the Mega Drive.
They came out with a bunch of them. It was part of a series owned by EA. This one entry was published by THQ. If you'd said EA, I would have given you.
I forget it.
I would have given you because with the caveat that while they did not publish this game, they do own the IP. Like they own the IP from when it was first in 1991 all the way through its most recent iteration in 2009. Yeah. They just licensed this one iteration.
Okay.
And we played that
one.
That was good.
That was a good one.
I didn't even remember playing the Mega Drive Road Rash.
Same
crap out of other motorcycles with weapons while racing. It was like Cruising USA level of racing, but you're on a motorcycle and you have weapons and you're just wailing on it. And if it gets too intense, like the cops can get involved. So there's like a prequel to like, I guess, the GTA style series. Which is why I said I don't believe anybody's living their life like this, just riding around, just slamming each other with like a bat on a motorcycle.
I'm sure there's somewhere in America that they are.
So
sorry, Americans.
That's
no. It's not surprising. It wouldn't surprise me if that came out. Like there was like an underground melee racing.
It was melee racing.
Very nice, very nice.
I think weapons would have helped you because that would have slimmed it down. The IP question was really good.
I was trying to rule out like Star Wars or Lego.
And then because of the age, like racing is a really broad genre, so knocking out cars was pivotal because that actually cut racing games in like half. Was it on your list of N64 games? If you had stuck to that list, would it have screwed you?
No, what Road Rash wasn't on this list, so I don't know.
Oh no,
this is Nintendo life.
You were misled.
I did not even consider Road Rash.
All right.
I might complain.
I also picked it when Chili wasn't here because I was like, "There's no way Chili's played this game." So I also try to pick games that I think maybe you three have played.
Yeah.
And I was like, "There's no way Chili played this."
I played the original Road Rash on Mega Drive, but I didn't really own anything on N64 except for Pokemon Stadium and like some other Pokemon games on N64. Really, that's about it.
Cool.
N64 games were just too ridiculously overpriced here. Like,
yeah, they were overpriced here. Like I remember, like $80 and stuff. It was like woof. And then you see PlayStation coming in with like $50 games because they're on disc, and Nintendo was like, "We want, the cartridge."
Well, not just that, but like they were $80, right? But they were £80. They released them at the same price as the American price here, which at the time
it's not the same price. They just match the number.
Yeah, £1 was $2 at the time back in the day. So £80 to £90 was like $170 to $180 per game.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust my memory on this, but it feels like that's what Games Workshop did with Warhammer, and so Warhammer was relatively affordable until they, was relatively unaffordable until they started screwing with that. Because as a kid, I remember I couldn't afford Warhammer, and I think that's because they were screwing with the pricing as they were converting up and they weren't converting. So I think depending on the era, that determined whether or not Warhammer was affordable.
So as we wrap up today's show, thank you all so much for joining us, especially if you're here on the live show. We do this every Friday at 11:30, with some exception. The goal is to hit 50 podcasts a year, giving us a little bit of grace for life events and so much more. So we thank you guys for that. Also, thank you to Bring Back Fluffy Dogs for 37 months of Prime support over on Twitch. If you guys aren't aware, Amazon Prime gives you a free monthly sub. You don't have to use it here. You can always use it wherever you want over on that. You got to use those Bezos bucks. That doesn't happen automatically. And also, we have a new viewer, TLK, says that Normal Gamer guys really enjoyed the show. So thank you so much for being there. I went ahead and gifted him out a gifted sub. So that was really great to see you guys. That way, we'll cut back on Twitch throwing ads in your face. Guys, why don't we go around and tell people what you got coming up, working on, or where they could find you? Let's start with Chris.
I got some shorts publishing this week over on the YouTubes. And then I'm actually working on I don't know, I think I want to start kind of sharing my fitness journey. So I finished my first ultra back in May. And so I don't really know what's next, but my wife and I are going to try CrossFit this afternoon. And I've done it before. I know I'm woefully unprepared. She has not done it before, which is even less prepared. So I want to start kind of sharing some of that journey as the transformation slowly continues. It's been 3 years now. So like it doesn't feel like the results are like the Newbie games were awesome. The first year when the 40 pounds kind of slowly fell off, that was awesome. And now it's like, oh, it's just trying to be a little better than I was yesterday.
Chrono.
Hey, well, I'll be streaming this afternoon over on Twitch and YouTube. I do that regularly over on my channels, just Chrono32123. Then I'll be live playing some Fortnite. They started their Pirates of the Caribbean event.
Is that game still in early access? Speaking of early access,
is it beta? I don't know. I think it officially left beta. I think it officially
left early access.
10 years of beta. Now it's in early access.
Yeah.
No, I think it left early access in like 2000.
We're in release candidate stage now.
Yeah.
I hope that does well when it comes out.
And Chili.
For me, I'm going to be playing a lot more Final Fantasy 14. I'm working on getting every job to 100. I've got nearly all the crafters to 100. I'm just missing a couple now. I'm just working on the jobs. The new raid series came out and it was a blast. I had so much fun with the raid series. I've also, my videos are going live on YouTube. Part 1 and part 2 should be live of the playthrough of Dawntrail. I've split up into, I think it's 19 parts, which will be releasing in twice a week, weekly episodes over time for the next few months. So you'll be able to catch up and watch over I play through it with Paul over on Moogle Gun Radio on YouTube. And remember, we also stream on Twitch, where we do a podcast normally every 2 weeks, but we took a little bit break because of spoiler stuff and because we did an episode every week last month because of getting ready for Dawntrail. So we took a little bit of a break. I do stream now, though, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. My co-host streams Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So yeah.
Lots.
Awesome. Excellent. And for me, you're already in the right spot wherever you're listening to this. Thank you so much for being out there. I think I've got working on some controller update guides for Throne of Liberty. And I've got some No Rest for the Wicked stuff ready to rock and roll for next week. And also doing some fun things behind the scenes that are under NDA right now. So we're looking forward to being able to share more about all of that with you guys here in the near future. But
you got one of these fancy new pizza boxes. Have you heard of that? The pizza box dev kits that have been out there?
No, I have not heard about pizza
PS5 dev kit made its way into the wild on an eBay listing that it was a pizza rewarmer because it has that like V and they said a slice of pizza there, and that's how it didn't get flagged, taken down, and confiscated by Sony. And it went for a big penny. So somebody out there owns a dev kit that shouldn't to a current console, which makes it way more rare because the old ones are out there. They're in the wild. Like Linus Tech Tips owns a bunch, but to have one from a current gen, that's like a big no-no. And it came. It was a pizza. It was a pizza rewarmer. It's something like that. You can look it up. It's awesome.
I wonder if it's gonna help the homebrew scene at all.
Like I say, it's more of a security issue because that way they'll get access to the keys and stuff like that.
All sorts of proprietary stuff on those. Big no.
Let's go down with the man. I'm sorry.
All right, guys, we'll be back next week with more gaming news discussion and all that good stuff. So thank you so much to my panel here for joining us, and we will see you next time.